All right, welcome. We're gonna start out by checking out this Trump video. Came out a few hours ago of Trump talking about Chris Christie. Um, and so, you
Oh,
know,
that's who he's talking about?
yeah.
I
So
didn't even know.
he's talking about Chris Christie. And we're just gonna kind of hear what he has to say, right?
Yeah, switch tabs.
Oh, right. We'll do this one. Okay, here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The latest morning consult poll has us far ahead. We're at 59%, and the others are at like 12. One is at 12. I think that's the sanctimonious, but he's rapidly being caught by Ramaswamy. Who's good? No, Christie's he's eating right now. He can't be bothered.
Gee.
Sir, please do not call him a fat pig. That's very disrespectful. Don't call him. See, I'm trying to be nice. Don't call him a fat pig. You can't do it. You can't do that. So now, because you're not allowed to do that, and therefore we're not going to do it, okay? We want to be very civil, right?
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel.
That is hilarious. That's all they posted.
I love that
NBC
NBC
News.
posted that. Like,
Well, and they didn't put any context with it. They just put it out there.
yeah, I mean, they just put out a comedy gold clip.
It's
Like, coming from NBC News, like, I wonder if their thought is, I can't believe that
there'd
Chris
be like
Kiss,
this speech for
that
itself,
Trump would say
what kind
this.
of man Trump is.
Yeah,
And it's like, if people are just like, clapping because it's funny. It's like, I don't get why. I mean, I was hoping to see whoever this guy is right here. I can't remember his name is anymore. I was hoping to just see a deadpan, like switching to him being deadpan, like, what do we just see here or something. Like, I was hoping to see more of them just being completely,
like a commentary or something.
yes, like just being deadpan, like, this was the president of the United States. I can't believe it. Or
He's
like
running.
some sort of like over the top, like what has this world come to? I was hoping for that, for even more laughs, but it is interesting that they put it
Yeah,
in its own standalone clip and they didn't say anything. They just posted that
and
clip.
it's comedy gold. I mean, I wonder. I wonder what the if I can see. I don't know if I can. Let's see if I can get to comments. Here's yeah. Um. I mean, they got the people though. You know,
All
the
the
people are
kind of
watching
making
it and they're
comments here,
like,
like, hey, look in the mirror.
yeah. Um. I mean, I guess that this is their audience, so you know,
Yeah.
this is kind of I suppose like what you can expect. Like to me, I just find this absolutely body shaming is so childish. But hey, look at it's just like look in the mirror, look in the mirror, look at the mirror.
And then they're body shaming by doing the same thing. It's just
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, yeah. They end up basically body
How dare
shaming.
you body shame, you fat pig?
You're no spring chicken yourself, you know? And it's like, you know, I guess I just kind of look at it for more or less what it is, which is just like, this is just comedy. To me, this
Yeah.
is just comedy.
So
Um,
I asked you earlier when I saw a small clip of that. I was like, when is this from? Is this from like 2016? Is this from?
yeah,
I
no,
haven't heard him kind of go that direction in a while. Because I haven't really listened to him a lot lately. I'm glad he's able to do some things like that, where he says things that are just funny, whether slightly inappropriate, but just funny.
yeah.
I mean, Chris Christie's a big man. I don't mean big man, but he's a man, right? He can handle it.
He can handle
feign
it fine.
outrage.
I mean,
He can feign outrage if he wants to, but like he knows he has
I
an
can't
issue.
believe the former president, the presidential candidate, called me fat. That I'm stuffing my face, so I can't be part of any of this. Like
Well,
I'm
there
not
was
paying attention.
I saw a meme of where was it? I saw a meme of of Chris Christie on a stage where giving a talk to a town hall, walking around, and they had photoshopped like a buffet around him. That he was just walking around, and he was like when he was on stage, and it looked realistic. Like that's what he was actually doing, and he's walking up and down this thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been doing it other than just Trump on stage like that.
You know what?
That was pretty classy, honestly, what Trump did. It's because it's poking fun, and meaning like it's poking fun in a fun way instead of just saying this fat piece of shit. You know, he's not like
well,
it's funny.
I think that it's really clever because it's multi-layered, right? Like he's effectively calling him fat, but he's also kind of poking at how you're not supposed to say these things,
Yes.
and we need to be civil. What we need to be, you know, we can't speak the truth to any of these things. We can't poke, we can't make fun, you know. We have to be civil. We have to just no. You can't say those things, you know. Even though he says he's busy stuffing his face. I mean, let's go through a little bit of this again.
Far ahead, we're at 59%, and the others are at like 12. One is at 12. I think that's the sanctimonious, but he's rapidly being caught by Ramaswamy. Who's good?
Right? Now,
Who's good?
Right? Now that's probably the first time that I can. Has he ever said anything good again, even in his 2016 towards?
From what I understand, Ramaswamy went and confronted Trump before he ran.
He did,
and he talked to him about it.
Yeah.
And he got Trump's blessing, from what I understand. So, I mean, he's showing respect for Trump and is saying, "Hey, this is where we differ. I'm gonna show where we not collide, where we
differ."
Yeah, I can't remember the awesome word that he uses to describe it though. He's so good. He's so good with the language. But he basically compares. He compares, and he said, you know what he does here. And one of the lines that Ramaswamy says is, you know, just for some reason, there's about 30% of America that just gets mentally ill and ridiculous and doesn't and can't behave as real
psychiatrically
humans,
ill.
Yeah, psychologically ill.
Psychiatrically.
And Ramaswamy says, and I'm not seeming to have that problem. So like, even though I'm going towards Trump policies, I have a different way that I approach it, whatever else. And while we have this similar message, I'm not having that problem, so that's not an obstacle that I have. So he's like not really trying to criticize Trump. He's just saying, hey, there's people be crazy. People be crazy.
There's a lot. He's basically saying there's a lot of people who are suffering from TDS, and they're not having that with me, and I want to effectively enact Trump's agenda, the America First agenda. I want to do what Trump's goal is, but I don't think that I'll have those blockades that are going to be in my way, of which Trump is going to, because simply he's Trump and there are so many people who are delusional.
In full disclosure, I'm trying to hold off on simping for Vivek because he's so impressed me. I'm even reading his book, or listened to the audio. I listened about 4 hours of it today while I was doing my deliveries.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Woke Inc. It was from, I think he did this in 2016-17 when he wrote this book. This is before he was even thinking about running for president. But he had some I learned a whole lot about capitalism and corporate capitalism and like the structures of things, and like if my mind weren't fried from going over and over. I had the same political conversation with somebody like 6 times today. I stopped and talked about these things that was in my ears, like, oh my gosh, if I didn't have that, I could probably I'll say that for another day when I'm not fried, because I want to show that I really know the information now, and I would not be a good demonstration right now, because I could talk generally about it like I usually do about things, but I have like an intricate understanding of the corporate world now with how it works and how it's structured. And I credit that his ability to communicate and his understanding. He's not just reading something. He understands that I can feel the wheels turning, and I can get in with it and I can learn with it instead of it just being like passive information that I'm just taking on that he's reading from a encyclopedia somewhere or getting some sort of.
It's not a
ghostwriter to do this.
regurgitation.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I understand it. It makes 100% sense. That's what I crave in life in general. So that's why Vivek or Vivek, depending on how it's pronounced. I've heard it said both ways. Is it Vivek
Yeah.
for sure?
Yeah.
That's why he impresses me because he's not just saying things. He has a deep understanding of things, and he's trying to be as respectful as possible to everybody. And in fact, when he's called out, I mean, there was one interview I saw this morning where he was forced to be talking about Trump for way too long because they kept on asking questions about January 6th.
That was the Face the Nation, right?
Probably, yeah.
I watched that too. It was
and he
very
even said that.
interesting.
He normally takes any question at a certain point. He's like, all right, so we're talking about Trump for 20 minutes. I'd rather talk about me. And it's like, so they're trying to put him in a more of adversarial space because there is a space where he disagrees, where he does see that he would have made different choices than Trump did during different things. And he says that what Trump did, it wasn't criminal, but it was not necessarily the choices I would have made. But like they try to focus on that to try to they try to put as much like animosity in the air as possible. I'm like, stop. He's not trying to do that. Like he's trying to actively focus away from it. You can say it's a strategy to try to get the largest group of people to like him, but it's also it's kind of part of his character based upon his book that I've read, where he actually grew up and he went back to India each summer because they wanted them to live in these places where they had to seriously fill up a cup and wash their cement hole free when they used the bathroom, and they would running off, and it's just like everyone just walked around in open shirts, and they had rickshaws, they didn't have, so like he lives a completely different type of life, and like the Hindu lifestyle, which I didn't know about, which is very interesting. And he was a Brahmin, which is there's like it's like the highest class technically, but they don't usually have the most money. They're usually meant for like intellectual thought, but they don't have to do anything. Meaning like they usually have people from other classes of the caste system. They usually come over, they do the cleaning, or they will do a thing if something's needed to repair. It's usually some other class, and you're supposed to be kind of intellectual leaders, I guess. You're supposed to not have to worry about the other things, so you can focus on your primary thing, I guess.
Which is thought, right?
Yeah, which is very interesting just to hear about the structure. But they have a family structure, and like even the arranged marriage part of it was heartwarming because it seems like it sucks, right? Arranged marriage, but it's more like the whole culture is plugged into like his parents were arranged, and it was so sweet. And they were both like, it's almost like the whole family was involved.
It's not that it's just you. Right. Yeah, it's not that it's just you and her.
They're all doing that, and they put them down, they meet, and they get the kind of first time they meet, they kind of put them in a chair together, and everyone else is kind of around, but like this first time they really communicate. She's never held anyone's hand before, right? That's how the culture was. Like it's so like it's just he has a humble understanding of the world, and he's come through, and he's been here, and he was railroaded out of he basically left his company because like he put the black square initially around like the social media. There's this black square thing you're supposed to do in solidarity. He's like, okay, I put the black square with this, and then he's supposed to release a statement. He's like, so he released a statement, but it wasn't woke. He was just like, oh, we need to be all strong as Americans or whatever. He said some sort of,
it wasn't targeted
like,
enough.
That's insufficient. That's insufficient. You need something about black lives, all that kind of stuff. He's like, why do I need to do that? And he's like, there's just all this fight, and then he had like 3 people in his business step down and put a resignation. Like you need to do all this kind of stuff. And he's like, what? And he didn't understand what was going on with all that. And eventually he did. He said, you know what? This company is important. It does good things. I'm not going to be a distraction to that, but I'm also not going to say those things. And he stepped down as CEO, and he sold his shares because he felt like whatever. He's
like, this is lost. Like what I built is no longer what
Right.
what it is that I
And
built.
because of that, that's why he wrote his book Woke Inc.
Hmm.
What I'm reading right now.
That's
It's
very
because
interesting.
of his experience of like, what is this? Like he 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 knew there were people had different things, but he was never even plugged into it before. Anyways, I can nerd about this forever. We can move on, but I'm
Yeah.
fascinated. We can talk about more in the future.
Yeah,
There's a DeSantis
absolutely.
article also. You
Yes,
have for us,
but
right?
something I also wanted to kind of point out was about Vivek is in that interview with Face the Nation, there was a very interesting moment. I don't know if you were watching it or if you were just purely listening to it, but I found it to be a very interesting thing because she had brought up this thing of saying, you know, you don't want, like, you effectively, it was like, you want to get the younger generations involved in voting, but you want to make it more difficult for for the younger generations to have the ability to vote. And she kind of came off in like isn't that really like counterproductive? Isn't that like you're trying to you say this but you're actually doing another? And his response effectively was like, we need to make it so that if immigrants can pass these civics tests, so that that's what effectively enables them to be able to vote, to get their citizenship and be able to vote. High school students should also be able to pass the same civics
Yeah.
test. And she goes like this, she goes amen. Like she does this gesture and this look, and she's like amen. And I thought that was a
high
very
praise.
yeah.
That's high praise from a liberal that hates him.
I don't know if it's
She
hate,
didn't
but
hate.
like
She didn't hate.
is on
She's-
the opposition.
Yeah.
Who's on the opposition. And I was like, whoa, this has, that stance probably has a lot more power to it than people want to effectively give credit
and
to.
his explanation for that is not just that we should be on parity with that. It's when he's gone into detail about it, it's about having a stake
Yeah.
in our own country.
Yeah.
And having a
A
there's
vested
word he uses.
interest.
Yeah, I can't remember the word he uses. So we have a duty.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you don't just get this vote for free. It's you have a
You've
duty
earned it.
assigned with it, and it's more of a thing that would be wanted. It's something that you would actually want, is to be able to vote, and like something you can earn, or something that you can be like, I am qualified to do this now, and it's a civic duty for you to be doing it. But
Yeah.
and it probably will result in more people paying attention and actually participating at a younger age.
Yeah, I agree. Something else that I guess I kind of wanted to, I kind of want to, I want to make a note of it, is that like a lot of the stuff that we talk about and a lot of the direction that we tend to go is generally Republican leading.
Only in these times.
Right.
Right.
That's kind of one of
Everyone's
the
doing it.
issues.
Everyone's doing that. You have all sorts of people like Jimmy Dore and stuff that are not conservative,
Right.
but it just we're ones are not. The wokeism is a problem right now.
Yeah. So like where I come from, there's a difference between you and me in that you identify as a Republican and a conservative. I used to at least identify as a Democrat and a liberal. But to me, those lines have been blurred so much that it has become difficult to associate myself with those things. It's hard. Like when I think about Democrat politicians, it's extraordinarily difficult for me. I mean, the one that I actually really liked, which was Tulsi Gabbard, has left the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like,
She was insane because she's a sane person.
right. And so it's like, who do I have to relate to? I mean, it's not Nancy Pelosi. It's not, Nadler. It's not, Adam Schiff or even Obama or Biden. I mean, maybe Obama. I identified with Obama during his 2008 campaign.
Initial.
During his campaign, but once he got into office and I saw he was just doing the same thing that Bush was doing, I was like, well, this isn't what I asked for. This isn't what I voted for. And so it just kind of seems like now all of the media and all of the stuff that kind of comes out that has either entertainment value or has some level of truth or something that I can dig into that is of use all comes from the conservative, the Republican, right, the right side.
So
and
I think that right now, America First type of mentality resides with the Republican Party.
Because that's where Trump formed it.
I even cringe when asking if I'm a Republican or not, because I have not liked that word for a long time, because it does kind of represent the deep staters in that sense, not deep staters, but the
Bush
establishment, right?
Yeah, the establishment.
The establishment feel like Republican were like it's just all about a calculation and whatever. So Trump does represent America First, and I think Ramaswamy does also, and people question that part about DeSantis, and that's why he's getting shit from some people.
Yeah,
I think he qualifies, but I think he does have way more. I am less impressed with him. Okay, I'm less
day after day
enthusiastic about him.
Yeah,
I would be happy for the president. He would be a good administrator. He would administrate and he would do things just fine. It's just, although that video, the thing you're about to show us now, I saw the headline on that thing. It sounds like DeSantis says he's gonna try to have the attitude.
It makes me a little. It makes me like him a little more to some degree.
Yeah.
And in a sense, it's also somewhat in the vein of this video with Trump. So I guess I can switch over to that now.
Switch the tabs. Yeah.
So DeSantis vows to start slitting throats on day one. Whoa. Hold on a second. Are you telling me he's going to, as soon as he goes in, he's pulling a knife out and he's just going to be slicing everybody's throats?
Yeah, he's just going to turn it
and blood is going to be gushing out.
Elect a murderer?
This is unbelievable. Do you guys, is this really an appropriate person?
They did that with Sarah Palin with the whole targeting. She said something about someone's a target, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, we shouldn't be talking about guns like that."
Yeah,
and it worked for some reason. It's like, what?
It's the crazy thing to me, and this is why I have nothing that I can relate to with Democrats and liberals at this point in time, is because they'll take something like this and they'll make it into something that it's not.
They use a disingenuous argument. They try to make a lot of scarecrows. What do you call it?
Straw man.
Straw man. Thank you. I said my brain is fried. I've been too much thinking and talking today. Yeah, straw man arguments. So straw man arguments, for people that don't know, put into words, is when you take the weakest possible arguments or reasoning for reasonings for somebody having an opinion, you post that up as if it's like the strongest, or like as if it's like the reason why they're doing this, and then you knock it down, you blow it out of the water with truth and logic, and you try to
well,
just
it's not even
because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's to clarify a little bit more, it's not necessarily the weakest argument or the weakest angle. It's a misrepresentation of that person's position, and so you basically create something else and then you attack that,
so
rather than what the person's actually saying.
It's someone else deciding what your intentions are and assigning them to you, and then burning it down.
Yeah.
So they're assuming the worst possible motivations, and they're assigning them to you as if those are your intentions, and then they're burning the shit.
Yeah, it's a fabrication. And so this is all that I see that comes from the left, that comes from the Democrats, is just here's something that's way over exaggerated, that's misinterpreted. It's oftentimes what seems like intentionally misinterpreted, which is, I mean, I guess we can kind of take a look at this in here. On Sunday said he would start slitting throats on day one when it comes to taking on the deep state, right? And so it's like you got the headline right here, and then it's like, oh, okay, so he's talking about the deep state, right? At a barbecue campaign event, he said, we're going to have all these deep state people, you know, we're going to start slitting throats on day one. This is not the first time the Florida governor has used the terminology. Last month, during an interview with the right-leaning outlet...
So they are actually criticizing the terminology in this article.
Yeah. Because, yeah, and I guess we can kind of see, like, where they want to go with it, right? DeSantis...
They're not even treating his argument for what the meaning is. They're just trying to assume that he's just a violent man. Just a violent man.
Well, I guess we haven't gotten there yet, and we'll see if he does. But I know that there's people out there who read this and they interpret it as as this is promoting violence, right? DeSantis used the expression when talking about how he would change the hierarchy in the Department of Defense. I think the idea that you take a flag or general who recently retired and put them as Secretary of Defense, I think that's a mistake. You know, they may have to slit more throats, and it's a lot harder to do that if these are people that you've trained with in the past that you know. So we're going to have somebody out there, you know, be very firm, very strong, but they're going to make sure we have the best people in the best positions, and there's not going to be necessarily prior relationships that would cloud that judgment. Okay, so that, I mean, that's
still a very moderated approach.
Yeah.
Actually. I
think that it's more. Right, I think it's more. This headline is probably the biggest problem, because when you have people who are just reading this and they are inclined to go down the route, because all that they really need, because narratives are, I believe narratives are among the most powerful forces in that involve humans. And so if you have these narratives that are out there of like, there's white supremacy and that's the most dangerous thing in the entire country, and the white supremacy is being bolstered and propped up by Republicans, and you have Trump out here and he's talking about Chris Christie being fat, and that's rude and insensitive, and he's also talked about how in the past there has been we used to do things a lot differently back then, which is in reference to violence. And then you have something like this. It's like, okay, so this is just another stack on the pile of the narrative that just inserts things into people's minds, even though none of that kind of stuff is necessarily in relation to things.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a sad time when these are the types of headlines, and then the outcome that people end up having is just kind of like an out there thing.
If that were the headline of a conservative article and the content was less blah like this actually was when it got down to it, he's more meandering, saying like, you know what, we're gonna be tough and we're gonna get our good people in there. He just thinks of bland blah blah blah. If it were actually stronger and he's actually talking about slitting throats and doing whatever else, that's a great thing to make you click on the article and read it and read about it. Okay, so he's looking to clean shop. You know, he's looking to clean shop, he's looking to do this. And if he had specific plans other than just saying, he's just saying kind of regular stuff. Like, you know, we're gonna get our people in there. It's just like cliche things. It's like, okay, I mean, but I'm saying I don't actually have a problem with that title. It's that they're using it to mean that he's violent or something.
It doesn't even, okay, it's not even necessarily that they mean for it to be to be violent. But I think that if you don't like DeSantis, you're going to interpret this title, this headline, as though he's in promotion of violence.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really where the problem lies.
Yeah,
and if you associate,
who's reading it, but
right,
I mean, we're reading it.
If you associate yourself with the Hill, right, which is where this comes from, then that, and you don't like DeSantis, then you're going to be more offended by it. But this is largely just kind of like there's a high level of bias that kind of comes with that territory, because you can have other people, what's her name, Maxine Waters, I believe. I mean, she's on video. She's on video actually saying we need to get out there, we need to get in their faces, and we need to effectively run them out of town.
Yes,
don't let them be comfortable. And what happens?
She thinks that was the response to like someone being yelled at in a restaurant and being chased out. Maxine Waters like,
that's what we need.
They shouldn't be allowed to go and eat at places.
Yeah,
you can't have opinions like that and not be assaulted in the restaurants. They should be.
Yeah, harassed.
That was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, if you talk to her now, she would just be. She's clueless. She's complete.
She's out of it.
She didn't know that she wasn't in the Senate when she was asked. She said, "Yeah."
No, that's fine.
No,
that was Feinstein. That was Feinstein.
Oh, Feinstein.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Maxine Waters is probably still relatively there. Who knows, though? I haven't heard from her in a long time.
I don't know. You're right. I got those two mixed up. I know they're completely different. They look completely different. But I remember the stories, and I put the other people. I know what they look like.
There's just it seems as though there's something really strange that's kind of happening that I really don't like that's happening in the Democrat Party, it seems. And it is also happening in the Republican Party with Mitch McConnell. But when you have Dianne Feinstein, you have Joe Biden, and you have Fetterman, and on the Democrat side, and then you have Nancy Pelosi and Nadler as well. I mean, these are people who, to me, clearly
they have senility. It's not a matter of them just being old. It's because there's senility that's set in.
Their brains are not working properly, and they are continuing to hold these positions. And I feel these positions as in, these their job, right?
Yeah.
And what really concerns me is, when we have, it's one thing to kind of have somebody who's incompetent and they're working in an environment where they have a low impact, and decision making is not, in their purview. But when you have a politician who locks up and they freeze for like 30 seconds, and people have to say, okay, is that all that you want to say? And then he kind of starts to come to, and they walk him off, right? I mean, I've seen Nadler do effectively the same thing. I mean, he waddled off like he just pooed his pants.
Did you see? So what Mr. McConnell was making an address to his constituents,
and they were like his own constituents were telling him to retire.
So
I think that
that's a little bit of a misnomer. There were other people there doing it, but everyone else is looking at him like,
yeah, he should.
His constituents are like, we're not the ones yelling this out, but we're like, yes.
Yeah, you should retire. I think he should.
What they said. They said.
And I hear a lot of times people talk about like, oh, this is a reason that we should have term limits. I don't think that this is a reason that we should have term limits.
But it should be frowned upon in the public for this to happen, instead of everyone just overlooking it if it's their party.
I don't want it to be.
There's an example as a conservative right now, like Mr. McConnell, so that I can have credibility in this issue, right?
Right.
I believe the same thing with him.
Yeah.
So it just happens to be the most of the ones that are incoherent right now that are lost their mental capacity happen to be Democrats. But like Mr. McConnell is losing it too. Good. I'm consistent.
Get him out.
I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to be anti-Democrat or whatever. I'm being consistent.
Yeah.
if that were the case with anybody like that, where they're just not able to serve, and we're just like, well, but we need their vote, we need their seat, so we're just gonna wheel them in every day. That's not the way to run things.
Yeah. I mean, imagine. One of the crazy things is you can see that kind of of an event. Maybe not as bad as Mitch McConnell or Jerry Nadler, or even as bad as speaking like Fetterman or Dianne Feinstein. But you can see that happening in Joe Biden. All of those things, to some degree, you can see that in Joe Biden.
And he's sheltered. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
we only see exactly as much as we have to, and everything else is they take the cane and pull him off stage.
And when
every
you
time.
do see him, yeah, and when you do see him, he's, he ends up embarrassing himself. He ends up falling over some sandbag. He ends up like wandering off in the wrong direction and having to be guided back. He ends up having somebody have to tell him where to go or what to do next. Like Trump is an old guy too, but he's not. You don't see anything coming from him in that realm. He's still sharp as a tack. You don't run into anything like that. So I kind of don't like when people are like, when they use these kinds of things as term limits. Like, hey, this is why we should have term limits. That's not the reason.
Right. I mean, you can ultimately, I guess you can call me a hypocrite in the sense that I'll let them use that argument if it convinces them to vote for term limits. But I don't think that should be the deciding factor. I think it should be because we should have term limits, because we need their, I don't know, maybe you don't agree completely. I don't know, maybe like 2 terms in
I'm really iffy on it. I'm really iffy on term limits. I see that there is a massive level of a downside in having it so that people can effectively make careers out of being a politician and holding a singular position. But I also think that the more that you're in, well, you can make relations and you can become corrupted, and through those corruptions you can end up tainting everything and all of the work that you've done. But I also think that if you did get somebody in who was good, it would be a sad day.
Right.
It would be a sad day to have that person be forced out.
But imagine, because I'm going to use Ramaswamy as an example because he's a young guy.
Yeah.
If he were to go or be if he were a senator, so like if people are doing this and they're actually doing it at the normal ages and they're term limited, they're 45 by the time they're even thinking about presidency too, and you wouldn't have any conflicts, and you'd have, how do I put this? I feel like it's good to have experience, but not where your whole life is doing it. Like, it's good for people to understand what the machine is, but like they should have like 2 terms.
Well, there's the risk of them getting absorbed by the machine, and that's the scary thing.
Not if it's short. If it's short, like, you're not valuable anymore. It's like a lame duck situation with all these guys. So they're not valuable anymore to the system after they're elected the second time.
Yeah, but there's workarounds to it, because they can just say, okay, I only get 2 terms as a senator. That's fine, because I'll build my relations, and then I'll go be a congressman, and then I'll go be a lobbyist, and then and through all of that, through that entire, all of the time that they spend in those positions, they'll be making relations, and then there will be campaigns that are brought in that you have connections with, or this connect, like you have, here's a company and they help to fund this one guy, they help to fund you in, and on your exit they helped to fund this guy, and you guys both have something in common, so now you guys are effectively working together, and then you can kind of build this,
Yeah.
what ends
Well,
up being this level of
obviously, the
shadow
lobbyist
government
thing
or
is
something.
also another issue that should be dealt with anyways.
There's a
It's-
lot of stuff that needs to get dealt
there
with.
just needs to be full transparency with
Yeah.
everything. I don't mind people lobbying for like having a company try to convince officials or whatever else, but I almost feel like it should just be a recorded event every single time or something. It's almost like you can make your case, but
Mhm.
I don't think it should be private dinners where you're paying for them, the whatever else. I don't like it. I don't like how it's structured currently. I want the free speech and to be able to I like it when companies are able to air their grievances and get hey, I need to talk to you. Hey, I don't care what it is. I'll like the idea of like I'll pay for your dinner. I want to talk to you about whatever else I need to talk about. The idea. I understand on some level that seems reasonable because like you don't want to inconvenience like well like now I got to pay for my own dinner to talk to you that I also don't want to do. You know, so it's like I can understand, but
Well,
it's too easy to bribe.
I think that one of the things that you know, Vivek, he has some points that he makes that are extraordinarily appealing that I would love to hear Trump mimic. In that, like, the truth. I want to know all of this stuff that they're kind of coming out with. You know, there's all this information that seems to be hidden, and that only a president can let the public know about. And to just kind of effectively declassify, go into these, like, there's so many pressing questions about CIA and the FBI and like what is it that's actually happening here. You know, I've even heard somebody mention like, yeah, people always go in there with the intention of like, hey, if you need to with the intention of, hey, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going
the
to
system, but then the system changes them.
well,
right?
they'll say with the JFK, oftentimes it's in the JFK vein, and like, yeah, I'll release the documents and we'll get to the bottom of the JFK assassination, you know, and then so like, you know, whatever it is, they come in and they're like, okay, you don't really want to do this because if you release this, you know, there could be a big, you know, there could be a big backlash that you're going to end up having to deal with if this is something you want to put out there, and so then what may happen is that they then they take themselves off the table and they don't really get into it, but you know, that's something I never really understood because it's kind of like you're a new president, especially Trump. You're new. You don't have any responsibility or ties to any of this kind of stuff. You're not a government worker. You're a lifelong government worker. So what ties would you really have to this? But with Vivek, you know, it sounds to me like he's like, look, there's a lot of questions that people have, and I think we should just get to the bottom of it. And I think that's
and his slogan is going to be, or it already is kind of, is that like we can handle the truth.
Yeah. We can handle the truth.
Which is a great way to go because
it is.
He talked about because you know you can't handle the truth. You know Jack Nicholson from whatever.
Yeah.
The top whatever his name, Tom Cruise movie with him.
Yeah.
But like the idea is that no, we can handle the truth just like we could back then. You know, it's like we can handle the truth. You're saying all this stuff about COVID. You're saying stuff about everything, and he wants to try to restore trust in the government in general because you don't trust anything that happens.
Yeah.
You don't. They'll say something, and you're like, oh yeah. So now it's like, even though I'm 100% 9/11 wasn't an inside job, there's more and more reason to believe that who knows anymore. You know, because you don't trust the government and anything they say.
I mean, there's like I'm not in the camp. It's the whole 9/11 thing is a very strange one, because like I'm not in the camp that 9/11 was an inside job, but I do find that there are certain things that are very strange coincidences that have occurred in regards to it. In a sense, the largest one to me is that there was like some $1 trillion that had gone missing, or some few $1 trillion that had gone missing, and the documents to find out where they were in one of the buildings, which then got blown up like 2 days or something before they were to go and collect them.
But that can also just be a convenient excuse to pass money around and get rid of the evidence.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be the cause. It can just be like the opportunist taking advantage of a situation.
Sure. I mean, and there's other things that are, you know, it's kind of one of these things where, and I don't know if we could even ever get the answer to that. Just as I've heard, you know, I'm not an election denier. I don't believe that. I don't necessarily believe that the election was stolen by way of. It's honestly, it's kind of hard for me to even say it though, because there's a moment.
YouTube, so who knows if you get the wrong one person.
Well,
reporting, you know.
Here's the thing that bothers me about the 2020 election, probably the most out of everything, is that I went to bed at like 2 a.m. and I was like, okay, you know, okay, and I'm sitting there and I had sat there for like 3 hours.
Then suddenly, then it suddenly changed.
No, it was no more votes. They said we're closing it down. We're done for the counts. We're not doing anything anymore. And at 2 a.m. I was like, okay, they've been saying that for 3 hours, and I'm literally refreshing the page over and over and over again because they were live updates. And I was like, okay, I guess I gotta wake up tomorrow, and that's when they'll start the count again. And then I wake up.
Crowder during that, and
yeah,
he was like counting all this stuff. It's like, oh, and it was totally locked in. Like, okay, well, it's pretty cool. We might even just have this, you know.
Yeah.
Probably waking up in the morning because they closed down the things at 2 o'clock because they had some issue with some water damage or something.
No, it wasn't necessarily that. It was like we need to send people home so that they can go to bed. Like we're not going to work these people.
And then they sent people right back as soon as all the watchers left. The people that are watching outside the window and stuff, then they call everyone back to finish counting.
So everybody,
That's what happened.
And so then it was kind of like, okay, so everything was closed for like 3 hours. We all go to bed, and then we wake up, and suddenly he's just leagues ahead. And it was like that's a question that I'm not comfortable with. I'm not comfortable with that moment.
Whether there was cheating there or not. Them like Ramaswamy has said, I keep saying that, he said that whether that's cheating or not, you can't just treat the people in the middle of the country like they're just whatever. You guys are just election deniers, whatever else. When there were actually some weird things that went on there.
That was a really weird thing that I've never seen in an election before.
And not be dismissive and not just be like. And not just be so happy that Trump lost, so therefore, we're going to be as asshole-y as possible to all the people.
If if that event happened, like you just reverse the roles in that, like there's no shot at all that the Democrats and the liberals and the left would say, okay, this was okay, like this
Jimmy
was
Dore
fair.
was playing there was like a 14-minute clip of all the clips of the Democrats saying how the elections were stolen and from all the different things from all of them were saying it at the Gore election and at the Hillary election. Hillary lost.
Hillary and Trump.
Gore lost. They're saying nonsense. He was stolen, all this kind of stuff. It was just nonstop. And then as soon as they say that on this side, canceled.
And I mean that was 3 a.m. drop where it just completely spiked, To me, all that I've heard is, oh yeah, those were all. This is the rationale that I've heard is that those were the ballots, the mail-ins.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but here's the problem. those were all being counted when nobody was supposed to be counting. Why were those even being counted at that point in time? That doesn't make any sense.
When they didn't have oversight.
Yeah, there's no oversight. It's just, hey, here they all are, and boom. So, I mean, it's a concern that I have. I'm not gonna go out on and just say, oh yeah, the thing was stolen, because I don't really know. But when people have concerns, I get it.
With what Joe Rogan says and what Vivek says. Joe Rogan says, like, the number of, like, the amount of cheating is not zero.
Yeah.
It's not zero, and I'll say what Vivek says is like, well, we don't know anything about we don't have any proof of any sort of cheating on the ballots, but we do have proof that there was collusion to get the story suppressed and to have and to have social media act as a arm of the government to stop Trump from winning an election.
Which is the exact same thing that the Democrats were concerned about with Trump and Putin, with Russian collusion and influencing the election through the manipulation of information to the people, right? So, like, if you're wondering if you wanted to make an argument that the election was stolen, and that the people were misled, you have a perfectly fair argument that goes both ways. The left has used this argument, and then the right can use this. And if the left have used that argument, and just because it turned out to be bunk doesn't mean that it's not valid, at least to them, it doesn't mean that it's not valid. Then that would mean that it's valid for the right. At least they have an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? This manipulation of information of the people to the people acts as election interference. And then, even to go a little bit even deeper into that, is that Trump it was deemed to be election interference when Trump was asking questions to Zelensky about what was going on with Burisma. And here we are, now we're at the flip side of it, and they're indicting Trump during an election, and he's a candidate. And so I feel like there's a lot of double standards, there's a lot of hypocrisy that's kind of going on. And what makes me probably the saddest of it all is that the party that I formerly was a part of, they are the ones who seem to be the most dishonest. This is not a party of thought. This is a party of emotion. This is a party of reactions. This is a party of
censorship.
Censorship and having already reached a conclusion and purely vying and pushing in that direction. Whatever it takes to get this outcome, that's what I'm going to do. To me, growing up, that was more the Republicans. That was how I viewed the Bushes, when they had what's his name? Was it Colin? No, not Colin. When they had the guy, the Defense Department, whoever the guy was, and Colin Powell. When he would go up and he would say, "Oh yeah, they have weapons of mass destruction, and we have to do something about that," and they lied to him in order to get it so that they could get their agenda through. And so it's like, because what they were after was the outcome and not the process, right? And it seems as though right now it's completely flipped. The Democrats are there for the outcome, and they're not there for the process. So they are more willing to accept lies, and replace lies with replace the truth with lies to get their outcome.
They don't care. The words that come out of their mouth are only useful in making people do or agree with what they want doing. They already plan on doing this, and the words they say are just purely winning a battle, convincing people to not outrage over it. So it's highly unfortunate that we are in a place where the ends justify the means, the the people in the halls of in the palace, right? The
Mhm.
people in the palace are just deciding what we need to do, and then they're finding ways to
Any
convince
means
other
necessary.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's probably a little bit because I feel like it's a little bit bittersweet for Republicans because they kind of get to there are moments where they gotta kind of get to be like, look at how crazy these people have gotten, and
Yeah.
there's a high level of truth that's associated to it, and that what that can end up doing is bring people like me, who was a part of that, over to their side. At least not to maybe not to being a Republican or identifying as a Republican, but they know at least
I don't
I'm
think
not
that's
on the
necessary.
side of.
I don't think it's necessary for anyone to feel like they're a Republican. I think that it's very
Yeah, I don't
possible
feel
for
like it's necessary
it's
for me.
very possible for America First to exist. America First and like a no nonsense, like real view to exist, independent of where that happens to lie in the party lines. It's just that I don't see a path right now where that would ever be on the Democratic side currently.
Yeah.
I think we're 30 years away from where that's even a possibility. It's the party itself is just a bunch of they're just a bunch of people that they're just like the deep state in their own way. They have their
Yeah.
own systems and things that will slowly change over time. They may meander into a place that is correct for the world because of just how things go. Like I say, back in the day, I mean, Democrats and Republicans were switched on a lot of things back in the
A long
back
time
in
ago,
the
there was
founding of the
there was a
country.
point
Yeah.
in time where the parties switched. Yeah.
But
But-
also they also at the same time had so much more in common at all times.
Yeah, and we are
used to be that there was
enormously
like,
divided at this
oh,
point.
we're the same on foreign policy. We're just a little bit different on some of the social issues.
Some of the social things or the
But like now
or
it's
taxes.
like, what do they
and-
say? Opposite. What do they say? Opposite.
Yeah.
Whatever he says, screw that guy. So it's just completely contentious.
Yeah. Okay.
So, let's do it.
All right.
Lock it up.
Drop a like. Hit the subscribe button. If you really like this, hit the bell icon so that you can be notified when the next one comes.
Crossing my fingers that we can somehow upload this in the highest possible quality.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, it's fine right now. It looks fine to us, and hopefully it'll send that way.
Yeah, we'll see. Lately, it's been doing it in like 480, so you know.
But there should be no sound doubling
yeah.
today, so that.
Hopefully, this was a good episode. Let us know in the comments. Drop comments. We love them. You know, and maybe we'll be able to give a little response to them. All right, you guys, take it easy. Peace out.